The wipers cannot keep up. You already know this is a mistake. You knew it the moment the sky turned that particular shade of green. Not gray, not black, green, the color the clouds go when they are not finished with you yet. But you kept driving, because it was only 2 more hours, because the highway was straight and empty, because you told yourself the rain would pass. It does not pass. The road ahead dissolves into white noise. The painted lines vanish under the standing water. Your headlights catch nothing useful, just the rain coming down so hard it bounces back up from the asphalt like something alive. And then, a shape, on the shoulder, a person standing completely still in the middle of all of it, not waving, not moving, just standing there, facing the road, soaked through, watching your headlights come. You slow down because you are a decent person. You slow down because leaving someone out in this is unthinkable. You slow down because every reasonable instinct you have tells you this is the right thing to do. Not one of those instincts mentions what you will understand later, that no one stands that still in weather like this. No one alive. Marcus Hale was not the kind of man who took unnecessary risks. He was 31 years old, a project coordinator for a mid-sized logistics firm outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, the kind of work that involves spreadsheets, conference calls, and a reliable Toyota Camry that he got the oil changed on every 4,000 miles without fail. He lived alone in a 2-bedroom apartment he kept tidy. He called his mother on Sundays. He had never been in a car accident. He was driving back from his cousin's wedding in Asheville, a 6-hour trip he had made 3 times before, twice in daylight, once in light traffic on a clear autumn night. He knew the route. He liked the route. There was a stretch through the Smoky Mountain foothills that he genuinely looked forward to, where the ridgeline caught the last light of the afternoon and turned the whole sky copper. That afternoon, it caught nothing. The clouds had moved in around 3 o'clock, and by 4 the rain was falling in curtains. His GPS told him the fastest route home ran north along State Route 441, a 2-lane highway that cut through the mountains before flattening out into the valley. 47 miles, mostly familiar. He had done worse. He stopped for gas at a station near the county line. The attendant inside, a heavy-set woman in her 60s with reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, looked at him the way people look at someone who has not yet understood something important. She said the road through the gap had been running bad all week, flash flooding. A guardrail had come down somewhere around mile marker 31. Marcus thanked her, paid for his coffee, and pulled back onto the highway. He noticed, without registering it fully, that she had watched his car leave from behind the glass door of the station, still watching when he checked his mirror a quarter-mile out. He told himself she was probably just bored. The rain worsened gradually, the way bad situations always do. Not all at once, but incrementally, each mile slightly worse than the last, until Marcus looked up and realized he could no longer see the mountain to his left at all. He turned the defroster up, cracked the window half an inch the way his father had taught him, lets the pressure equalize, keeps the glass clear. It helped, marginally. Mile marker 22. Mile marker 26. The road climbed and curved. His headlights swept across the wet asphalt and the black tree line, and the rain coming down sideways now in the wind. Around mile marker 29, Marcus noticed the radio had gone to static. He reached forward to find another station, and that was the moment he saw the figure. Passenger side of the road, standing on the narrow gravel shoulder where the guardrail should have been and was not. A woman in a light-colored jacket, dark hair plastered flat against her face by the rain, one arm partially raised. Marcus slowed without deciding to slow. She was young, mid-20s maybe, no luggage that he could see, no car visible on the shoulder ahead or behind, just a person on a mountain road in a rainstorm, alone, in the dark. He told himself this was straightforward, car trouble, phone dead, someone who needed a lift to the next town. He had been that person once. 17 years old on the interstate outside of Nashville, waiting 40 minutes in the rain before a truck driver stopped. He remembered exactly how that felt. He rolled down the passenger window. The rain came in immediately, drumming against the seat. She leaned down and looked at him. Her eyes were a very pale gray, the kind of pale that reads almost silver in low light. She said her name was Claire. She said her car had gone off the road about a mile back. She said she just needed to get to the next town. Her voice was calm, steady, not the voice of someone who had just been in an accident. Marcus told himself people handle shock differently. Some people go quiet. Some people get very controlled. He reached back and pushed the rear door open. She got in. She was soaked through completely. Jacket, jeans, shoes. He could hear the water in her clothes. He turned the heat up without thinking. She did not say thank you. He did not notice that yet. Marcus drove. Claire sat behind him, directly behind the driver's seat, and said nothing. He asked her what town she was heading to. She said Millhaven. He knew it, 14 miles further down the valley, a small place, a gas station and a diner and a hardware store. Easy. He asked her if she needed to call anyone. She said no. He asked her if she was hurt from the accident. She said she did not think so. The rain intensified. Marcus watched the road and his mirrors in equal measure, the way you do when something is sitting just outside your full attention and you cannot identify what it is. He could hear her breathing, slow, measured, slower than it should be for someone who had just been in an accident, who had been standing alone in a storm on a mountain road, who was now in a stranger's car. Too slow, the breathing of someone deeply asleep or deeply calm in a way that did not make sense. Around mile marker 32, Marcus noticed something in his peripheral vision. The windows on her side of the car had not fogged up. He was running the heat. He was generating body heat. His own windows had the faint haze of condensation at the edges, but the rear passenger window, directly beside her, was perfectly clear. He told himself it was the airflow. The vents were pointed toward the front seats. She was probably just cold, not generating heat the way he was. She spoke. She said that road had seen a lot of accidents. Marcus said yes, he had heard that. She said a lot of people did not make it through the gap when the weather was bad. He said he was being careful. She said the worst part was mile marker 34. She said that was where it always happened, where the road curved and dropped at the same time, where your headlights lost the pavement for a half second before finding it again, where the drainage was wrong, so the water collected and the asphalt went slick. Marcus asked her how she knew the road so well. She did not answer right away. When she did, her voice was different, quieter, coming from somewhere further back than she was sitting. She said she had driven it many times. Marcus looked in the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. Not empty because she had moved, empty in the way a room is empty after something has left it, the air still unsettled, the seat still wet, the impression still visible in the fabric where someone had been sitting. His foot hit the brake on instinct. The car shuddered on the wet road, fishtailed slightly, found its grip. He pulled to the shoulder and turned around fully. The rear seat was soaked through. Her outline was there in the damp fabric, the shape of a person sitting with their hands in their lap, head slightly forward. But Claire was not there. Marcus sat very still for 7 seconds. He counted them. Then he looked at the road ahead, at the curve dropping away in the dark, at the rain falling straight down in the beam of his headlights. Mile marker 33.8. He did not get out of the car. There was nowhere to get out to. There was the wet road and the dark tree line and the rain and whatever was on the other side of that curve. And Marcus understood, sitting in the silence of his own vehicle with the heat running and his hands not quite steady on the wheel, that he had been in this moment for longer than he knew. From the gas station, from the attendant watching him leave, maybe before that. He thought about what Claire had told him, the curve, the drainage, the half second where your headlights lose the road. He had been about to drive through that curve, at speed, in the rain, without knowing what was waiting on the other side. You would have kept driving, you know you would have. You had 14 miles to go and a warm apartment waiting, and no reason to believe that the road ahead was anything other than a road. You would have taken that curve the way you take every curve you have ever survived, leaning into it, trusting the physics, trusting the painted lines, trusting that the road is still there under the water. And then the water, and then the drop, and then nothing. Marcus sat at the shoulder for a long time. When he finally looked at his phone, he saw a signal. 1 bar, faint, enough. He pulled up the map, zoomed into the road ahead. The map showed the curve at mile marker 34. It showed the road continuing on the other side. It also showed in a small gray notation that he had to enlarge to read, a bridge. A bridge that, according to a Highway Department incident report, accessible through a link in the map notation, a report dated 11 weeks ago, had sustained significant structural damage in flash flooding, a bridge that had been marked for emergency repair, a bridge that, as of the date of the report, had a temporary barrier across it. A barrier, not a guardrail, a temporary Jersey barrier, the kind they use when something is too damaged to cross and too dangerous to leave open. In the dark, in the rain, on a curve where your headlights lose the road for half a second. Marcus put the car in reverse and backed away from mile marker 33.8. He turned around at the first wide spot in the road and drove back the way he had come. He did not look in the rearview mirror. He already knew the back seat was empty. He stopped at the gas station. The woman with the reading glasses was still behind the counter, and when Marcus walked through the door, she looked at him with something that was not quite surprise, more like recognition. The expression of someone who had been waiting to see whether he would come back. He told her what had happened. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she asked him to describe the woman he had picked up. He did. Young, dark hair, pale gray eyes, light jacket. The attendant, her name was Ruth, she told him later, reached under the counter and put a folded newspaper on the glass between them. Local paper. 3 months old. The photograph on the front page was a headshot from what looked like a college ID. A young woman with dark hair and very pale eyes. The headline was about a crash on Route 441, a single vehicle, a curve in the rain, a bridge barrier struck at speed. The young woman's name was Claire. She had been 24 years old. Marcus read the article twice. Then he stood at the counter for a long time without speaking. Ruth made him a cup of coffee he did not ask for and did not refuse. She told him that stretch of road had taken 3 people in the last 2 years. She told him the county had been promising to fix the drainage since before her grandson was born. She told him that she always watched when people drove out that way in the rain, because some of them came back and some of them did not, and there was no way to know which would be which until it was already decided. Marcus asked her why she had not warned him more directly when he stopped for gas. She said she had tried. She said some people hear the warning, and some people hear only what they have already decided. He thought about that for a long time on the drive home. The longer way, the interstate, 2 extra hours through flat land and well-lit exits. The detail he could not stop returning to was the wet seat. He had felt it when he reached back to check. The fabric was soaked through, the distinct cold dampness of clothing that has been saturated in the rain, the shape of a person who had been there and then was not. Something had been in that car. Something had known what was waiting at mile marker 34. He did not know why. He did not know what to call what had happened or where it fit inside anything he had ever believed about the world. He only knew that he was driving home on a Tuesday night in November, and that the rain was still falling, and that without something he could not name or explain, he would not have been driving anywhere at all. There is a version of this story where Marcus drove through that curve, where the barrier appeared too late and the car went through it and down into the drainage channel where the water was running fast and deep, where the Camry with the clean oil and the good tires and the responsible owner filled up in the dark and the rain, and no one found it until the water dropped 2 days later. That version exists. It was the version the road was waiting to write. What stopped it was a woman standing on a shoulder in the rain, a woman who had already traveled that road to its worst conclusion, a woman who, for reasons that belong entirely to whatever exists after this life, decided that what happened to her did not have to happen to him. We talk about ghosts as though they are threats, as though the dead who remain behind are here to harm us, to frighten us, to pull us toward the dark. Most of the stories we tell are built on that assumption. The ghost is the danger. The ghost is what you must survive. But Marcus did not need to survive Claire. He needed to hear her. I think about that sometimes. How much of what we call a haunting is something else entirely. A warning we were not prepared to receive. A message from somewhere beyond our understanding, arriving in the only form that could make us stop, make us listen, make us turn around. The road through the gap is still there. The drainage is still wrong. The county still hasn't fixed it. And on certain nights, when the rain comes down in curtains and the sky turns that particular shade of green, there are drivers who slow their cars on that stretch of Route 441, not because they see anything, but because something in them, some quiet and wordless instinct, tells them to. Maybe that instinct has a source. Maybe it is standing on the shoulder. Maybe it is wearing a light jacket. This is After the Horror. We begin where the story should have ended.